Hey guys, Brigitte with Sandow Seed Company, and today I'm going to be talking about how do you fill your beds, what do you fill them with, and can you do it on the cheap? Do you want to do expensive? What's your options? And what's the downfall of both systems? Okay, before I get into that, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you're notified anytime we put out a video. All right, so this is like probably one of the top 5 questions that I get all the time from brand new gardeners. They get raised beds or they get pots and they go, well, what do I fill it with? There's so many options out there, and if you are on Instagram or social media at all, you can see all kinds of different recommendations, from Hugelkultur to putting in your own raised bed mix. What do you use? I'm gonna go through each and every one. I'm not picking any sides here. I'm gonna give you the benefits and the drawbacks of each one, and you can decide what makes the most sense for you. Like everything in gardening and in life, there's no one size fits all. It all depends on your particular situation, how much money you want to spend, what you have access to, how long you've been gardening. There's so many factors in it. So let's talk about option number 1, which is doing it on the cheap with free stuff that you find, that you source, or very inexpensive things. So one of the ways in which you can fill a bed for a less amount of money is by using something called Hugelkultur. We have a whole video on it. You can check it out. I tell you exactly how to do it. But the basic idea is that you're layering organic matter in a raised bed to fill space so that you're not filling the whole bed with potting mix or raised bed mix or things like that. So basically the idea is like you would use something like logs. On top of the logs, you would put something like mulch. Now, logs you can get very cheap. These are actually from our garden. We cut these from a tree. In our garden, we recycle everything. We try to keep as little going to the landfill as possible, so any organic matter we save. So we could put down a nice layer of logs first. Let me actually grab a few more here. So you basically just layer them on the bottom. And the point of this system is to take up volume, to take up space, right? Next thing you can do, mulch. A lot of places give away free mulch at like city municipal landfills. In San Diego, you can get it free. You can also get it free through Chip Drop. You can call up different arborists and say, hey, I want a truckload of wood chips. You can get it very inexpensive. So then that goes on top, minus the confetti. Somebody was having a party. So we've already filled up like half the box with free material. Then we have homemade compost. That can go on top, which also, look how proud we are. I mean, that's amazing. Now, if you're in San Diego County or a lot of different places around Southern California, you can actually get free compost from your municipal landfill. Look up those programs. It's fabulous stuff because not everybody can make compost this amazing. And also, not everybody can make enough compost in their backyard setting. So you can oftentimes get very inexpensive or free compost from city programs. And now I'm gonna get on a little soapbox here. It's really important that we as gardeners support those programs or they will go away. The San Diego compost program is amazing, and they have stricter rules and regulations than a lot of the bag stuff that you buy at the store. Unfortunately, it gets a little bit of a bad rap because it comes from the landfill, but all it is food scraps from places like UCSD, SDSU, and organic matter where they make compost right there on the landfill. Another complaint people say is it smells. Well, it smells because it's so active and there's so much going on in it that it can be a very strong smelling compost. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean that it has bad things in it. It just means that it is a biologically hot or very active compost. It is a free product. We use it on our certified organic farm, and we've been using it for over a decade. Love it. It's a program that I totally want to support, and I hope San Diego keeps doing it. So that's my soapbox. So you can get free compost from many places. And then lastly, we've got raised bed mix or topsoil mix. So the nice thing about this is that it's typically the least expensive soil that you can get from nurseries. Lots of nurseries, local nurseries like City Farmers actually sell this in the bag. I think this is like $6. It's great stuff to add as a filler into your raised bed. Now keep in mind, I like to call this stuff like the flour of a cookie recipe. Now you can't make cookies with just flour, right? You need flour, it's essential, but you need butter, you need chocolate chips, you need vanilla, you need all the other things to make a really good cookie. This is great, but I don't recommend only planting into this. You need to add all the other things that make soil amazing. Plenty of compost, worm castings if you have it, a granular organic fertilizer really makes a big difference. Now, because we're talking about doing it on the cheap, I just want to show you what this looks like. So this is topsoil mix, and what this is basically it's soil that has been sifted, and there's definitely some organic matter in here, there's definitely some sand, but look how light and fluffy it is compared to this compost. This is not going to hold nearly as much moisture as this is, which is extremely important in zone 9 and 10 or any hot climate. You want soil that's going to hold on to moisture, particularly if you're planting in a raised bed that's really shallow. Remember, I've said it a million times, the smaller the vessel that you plant in, the less volume of soil you have, so the smaller sponge you have to hold on to moisture. So you want to guarantee that the soil you do put in your raised beds is going to hold on to as much moisture as possible, and the way to do that is lots of organic matter. So this is very inexpensive, and I could actually use this to fill the whole top layer. So now I'm only doing half of it for the sake of this video here. Okay, so fill this. Now, this was a $6 bag. And you can see I've got about 2/3 of it. 2/3 of it filled about, well, a third of this bag of this raised bed here. So I'm going to need all of this. So it can add up already if you're trying to garden on the cheap. If you're doing this Hugelkultur method, which tends to be the cheapest option. Some pros of this, again, it's less expensive. You're gonna use things that you already have in your garden, which is fabulous. You're keeping things out of the landfill. You're not using as much plastic as buying, plastic bags of potting mix. The ingredients you're putting in are diverse, which is going to make for the best soil for your raised bed. Now let's talk about drawbacks, right? There's no one size that fits all. First of all, you have to have all these items on hand. If you're in an area of the United States where you don't have free compost programs, maybe this isn't the best option. The other fallback of this method is, and it's something that people don't talk about enough, Hugelkultur is amazing, but it does take a little bit of maintenance, because as these things on the bottom, the mulch, the wood chips and the logs start to break down, and as the soil settles in between the cracks of those items, you'll notice the first season your soil might drop 6 to 12 inches, which means you got to stay on top of it. You got to add more soil to the raised beds. Now, if you have things growing in there, it's kind of a pain because now they're 6 to 12 inches lower than they were when you planted them. Is it a problem? Not really. I always plan on pulling my crops out when the season's done, adding more soil, then planting again. If you're going to do perennials in a bed, that might be a pain because you don't want to rip those plants out. So that's a big drawback and something that I think people don't mention enough about Hugelkultur. We've done Hugelkultur. I love it. I'll continue to do it. And we also do it because it's a way in which I can maximize the amount of beds that I have on our farm or in our garden for the least amount of money. Now let's say you're watching this video and you've heard all these options and you go, that's too much work. I just want to set it and forget it. Okay, option 2, the more expensive option, is just to buy very nice, high quality potting mix. As I mentioned in the beginning of our video, raised bed mix, topsoil, or even a lot of companies call it raised bed soil or filler soil is not good enough to plant on your own. You need more than that. Something like a Fox Farm is amazing. The stuff is great, but it's really expensive. For a bag like this, you might need 6 or more bags to fill a raised bed, and at $13, $14, $15, however many dollars this bag is, that can get really expensive. And especially if you're trying to put up 5, 6, 7 of these raised beds, you're talking about a hefty amount of money that you may not have to spend in your garden. The benefits of it is it's really easy. You can do it in one day. It's easy to transport. If you're in an area where maybe there's stairs, you can't use a wheelbarrow, it's easy to transport bags of soil, which is really great. Drawback, it's a lot of plastic, right? You're talking about, could be as many as 12 to 18 bags of plastic that you're left over with at the end of your, at the end of the day when you filled all your raised beds. The other thing too to remember is even though this is full of all kinds of good stuff, and actually we'll flip it over and look, you can see, let's see, look at the ingredients here. Where's the ingredients? Perfect. So ingredients right here. So there is aged forest products, there's perlite, there is already some fertilizer in there, which is fabulous. There's peat moss, which holds on to a lot of moisture. So there's a lot of good things in here, but as an avid expert gardener, I'll tell you that this isn't everything that you need. I would still add more compost. I would still add worm castings if you can, especially if you're growing perennials or larger crops that need a lot of food and energy to grow. So I really laid it out for you how you want to do it. Over the years, I've done it pretty much every single way. In the beginning of my gardening journey, I did bags because it was already pre-mixed and it was easier for me. And I was only doing 1 or 2 small pots at a time. Now, as a professional farmer, I could not afford to be able to buy products like this. I need to make them and utilize products that are free, that are on my farm already, so that we can be the most sustainable and the most economical as possible. The choice is yours. I've laid out everything that you need to know to make a good, educated decision about what you need to fill in your raised bed.